What's the most valuable thing your kids broke? My mother had exactly one picture taken in front of the Berlin Wall a week before it was torn down. I brought it to show and tell when I was 10 and lost it. 21 years later I still hear about it. Not sure if this would have been valuable at all, but back in like 2005 or so, my younger sister, about 10 at the time, decided to open up an old case of Coca-Cola she had found in my dad's office. The Coke was from 1993 and she was curious about what it would taste like. So she opens the first one, takes a sip, decides she doesn't like it and dumps it down the drain. She repeats this process for 3 more cans. Eventually she decides that the entire case is no good and proceeds to dump out every can, crushed them, then ripped up the box and threw it in the recycling. Unfortunately it was a special 1993 Blue Jays World Series Championship edition of Coke or whatever, and my dad had gotten some members of the team to sign the box and some of the cans. He was not pleased. I love the way she dumps them all down the drain just because she doesn't like them, haha. My mother-in-law told me they had a piano with original ivory keys, and when my husband was a preschooler he found something to wedge under the keys and snapped more than half of them off because he said he liked the sound they made when they broke. Update. Told my husband I posted this and he laughed and said he can still remember the sound. Spoiler. We neither have a piano nor kids. This thread is gold as birth control. Baby humans are monsters. When my son was about 8 years old he was waiting for me in the car. He pried a small chunk of dried mud from the sole of his shoe and inserted it into the ignition of my car because, well, nobody knows why. Not even he knows why. After an hour of the car not starting, I happened to glance at him and I saw that look on his face. The look that says, I am guilty AF. I don't remember what it cost to have the ignition dismantled and cleaned, but I do remember the lesson I learned that day. When you ask your kid why the heck they did something stupid, and your kid says, I don't know, sometimes they really don't know. My parents told me that when I was 3 there was this one time when I wanted to help my dad wash our car, but I couldn't find a sponge, so I picked up a brick by the street and washed the car with it instead. A friend of mine has a pristine 50s model Chevy car, not sure of the type, but it's cherry red and it is his baby. His daughter and her friend were playing in the garage and decided to spruce it up by painting their names on the car in white house paint. My father's nicest suit was a little bit muddy, so I put it in the wash with the rest of my laundry. My mother said she didn't even get mad at me because I was trying to help. She just laughed. My son stranded himself and 2 buddies when he drove my car through an approximately 5-foot deep puddle and stalled it in the middle. Not my kids, but my nephew and niece broke both an elliptical machine and the footrest on my recliner during one visit. That was 10 years ago and I still get annoyed as I sit cross-legged on my chair. Ugh, other people's children are the worst. I was the kid who broke this item. In my grandmother's house she has an amber clock. It was made in the very early 1800s I think. Well, the real catch is that the only other one we have ever found like it was in the Biltmore estate. It's expensive as frick. I may or may not have been a child getting hyped about playing Tony Hawk's Underground 2 and was jumping around and kicking for some reason. I ended up spin kicking this clock that is probably worth more than my soul off of a table where the face of it broke. My grandfather repaired grandfather clocks and also built them, so he was able to fix the damage and the clock went into a china cabinet after that. Grandfather clock fixing grandfather. My dad's friend once gave my brother over $100 in foreign currency, with my brother immediately responding by feeding it all to the dog. Very patriotic emo. My mom had several disposable cameras worth of newborn baby through toddler photos of my youngest sister. My younger brother pulled the film out of all of them one day while he was playing. Mom still talks about it with a sorrowful tone now, 20 years later. She also had a jewelry box which belonged to my deceased grandma. There were some necklaces that looked like old coins encased in some gold trim. He peeled off all the gold thinking they were those chocolate coins that come in foil. Lastly, we were fairly poor. She never had nice things for herself, but one year she splurged and got herself a stereo which she loved. Well, my brother cut off the electric plug with a pair of scissors and she never got another one. He grew up to be a chill adult, though. Maybe it's the medicine I took as has left me lightheaded and loopy, but this story out of all of them has left me with a feeling of profound sadness. Don't know if this counts as broke, but my brother set my sister's room on fire. He was about 5 or 6 and had found a bottle of hairspray and matches in my sister's room. One thing led to another, and when things got out of hand he quietly shut the door and went outside to shovel snow because he was trying to act casual, I guess. My mom smelled smoke, and when she went over to my sister's room and opened the door, she was treated to a raging inferno before slamming the door shut and calling the fire department. Cut to my sister coming home, and she thought she was in trouble because she had no idea why all of her stuff was on the front lawn and burned to a crisp. We ended up having to stay in an apartment for a few months while my sister's room was rebuilt, and my brother was court ordered to be enrolled in fire safety classes. I love how the kid goes straight into playing it cool. Can't get mad at me for burning the house down if I'm doing chores. This morning my 4-year-old got mad and threw a Hot Wheels car and shattered the TV screen. I was excited because we bought the extended warranty and were finally going to use it. Extended warranty expired 2 months ago. If it's a factory defect, you may still be able to get your child replaced. A few years ago had a friend who thought he was clever by hiding his marijuana plant from his parents in their attic. Even installed a grow light up there. House burnt down. My mom had a very sentimental lamp from her mother or grandmother and would constantly yell, "My lamp. Watch the lamp," constant source of anxiety. It survived mine and my brother's childhoods. After we both moved out, the dog broke it. Kevin, watch the light. Something that I broke when I was little. I was about 3. My mum was playing this "Where Are My" game with me. You know, "Where is my nose?" And I'd point to her nose. She said, "Where are my eyes?" I poked her in the eye. My little toddler razor fingernail scratched the lens of her eyeball. It caused permanent damage and she still wears glasses to this day because of it. So that, as a toddler, I managed to scratch my mom's eye with a newspaper I was waving around as I sat on her lap. A couple weeks after she got the eye patch off, I scratched the same eye with my nail. Glad to know I wasn't the only kid who causes eye trauma to their parent. I broke a vase my mom inherited after her grandma's death. I didn't know at the time, but I felt horrible when after. Fun fact, I'm named after her. Not me, but my little brother. When we were kids, he was maybe 5 or 6. Our mother took us into a store that sold outdoor accessories. My brother was exploring the store and being a bit unruly, and he knocked over a 3-foot statue of a fox dressed as an English huntsman. The impact broke off the fox's ear. This stupid thing cost in the neighborhood of $300. In today's dollars it would have been more than $500. My mother somehow persuaded the store to let her repair it instead of paying for it outright. She took that thing home, glued the fox's ear back on, and returned it to the store. Can't remember if she paid them anything in the end, but the fox looked like its old pretentious self when she was finished with it. Wow, that's really smart of your mom. I probably would have just stood there and thought, well, there goes my paycheck. X. One of my well-intentioned children overheard me say my PC case was dusty inside, so I need to clean it out. When I was out, they used our vacuum and cleaned every last bit of dust out of the case, even the fans and power supply. I thanked them for doing such a great job and didn't have the heart to tell them that they fried my motherboard and RAM. $600 later I was back up and running. And yes, I did sit them down and show them how to properly clean a computer so it never happened again. Good on you for not punishing them for having a completely honest mistake. This one snowballed. I broke the fan blades on the dishwasher one day while unloading it. Not wanting to get in trouble, I didn't say anything. My parents assigned chores to my brother and I had dish duty for every meal. So, in my youth, I decided to start hiding dirty dishes in the garage so they wouldn't find out. 2 weeks go by and the cabinets are looking pretty dang scarce. I've got 2-3 trash bags full of dishes hidden behind the Xmas decorations in the garage. One day, Dad comes home from work with a T-bone from Publix and he's been thinking of that thing for 12 whole hours. This steak is his solace, but he can't find the broiling pan. He's emptied out all the cabinets and is looking at me with a fury in his eyes. Bonsai, I won't be mad. Just tell me where the dang broiling pan is. Finally, I give in and led him to a maggot-infested, smelly corner of the garage and had to fish it out for him. I was grounded for so long after that. TLDR. Broke the dishwasher, hid the dishes, and broke my father's spirit when he needed the broiling pan. Why not wash the dishes in the sink instead of hiding them? I cost my parents some thousands of dollars replacing the home HVAC system because backyard archery. While I was shooting on one windy day, a stray arrow ricocheted off the edge of my makeshift backstop. Area behind it was a vacant hill, in case anyone asks LOL. So perfectly that it flew into the alcove corner where the exterior unit was and it embedded itself in it so perfectly and with enough energy to puncture the condenser coils. That's just impressive. On my last day of work with my team, they gave me an Irish crystal branch with 2 crystal butterflies, ironically symbolizing my 2 sons. It was more sentimental than expensive, I guess. My son smashed it beyond repair. Don't have kids, but when I was a kid I broke their brand new, not even had it a week, 4-poster bed. My mother had always wanted a 4-poster bed, so after they finished paying off their education loans they saved up and got the new bed. Naturally I was excited too since I was like 7 and it was a princess bed. They had a VCR in their room so I was watching my favorite while dancing around their bed. At some point I decide I should be able to swing on it and sing, like princesses do. Crack. Freaking post busts off. Naturally I go run to my room and pretend to have just awoken from a nap to avoid punishment. I was grounded for a week. That post was wonky the next 20 freaking years because they never fixed it, all while taking the chance to tell me they get a little pee off every day seeing its tilted stance. I've ruined more crap in my life, but that was the most expensive. Sounds either badly made or designed to be fair. A piece of wood as thick as a typical 4-poster post should easily bear the weight of a child. 35 years ago I put gas in the oil fill on the lawnmower. It started billowing smoke when I started it up. I told my dad what happened and that I was sorry. He said yes you are. Still stings. I was 20 and put straight oil instead of 50/50 mix into my dad's lightweight mostly plastic leaf blower. The thing ran but heated up so badly all the plastic and the interior melted. Not my kids but my young cousins, probably 8-9 at the time, rode their bikes through our garage during a family BBQ and scratched the entire length of my dad's Porsche GT3 with their handlebars. Never really seen my dad so mad that he couldn't speak. The kids were insolent little shoots and basically got no punishment from their parents. Cut to about 3 years later, one of them is in trouble for making a fake terrorist threat at his school. Good kids. Holy crap. The GT3 is one of my dream cars and just imagining this situation makes me furious as frick. The kitchen floor. When my cousin and I were in the 18-month-old range, I'd figured out how to open child-locked cabinets. The old school locks that you just opened the door a bit and pushed down the latch. And my cousin had mastered the screw-top lid. Together we managed to liberate a gallon of oil my aunt had stashed under the sink and pour it all over the kitchen floor, then slide around in it. A gallon of oil meant that the kitchen floor had to be torn up and replaced. This is why mine live in the playpen until 2. Our parents collect antiques. As you can imagine, the house was a minefield of things kids can break. They had an antique hand-painted folding screen from the 1800s. It was against a wall, behind a rocking chair. Being kids, we were horsing around and rocked the chair until it fell back right into the screen. I can still remember the sound of the screen ripping, our sudden terrified silence, and mom yelling, "What did y'all do?" Dad was pee. They sent it off to some fancy place in New York to have it repaired. It was something like $8K to fix it, and this was back in the 90s. So it comes back, and it goes in a new place, away from the kids in the living room and any rocking chairs. It's fine for a few years, and then, I don't even remember how, we broke it again. Dad did not get it fixed. My son rode his Razor scooter around and around our accountant's car when she was doing our taxes. He scratched every single panel on her car as well as both the front and rear bumper. She needed her entire car repainted. $1,800. He also slid the manual locks shut on our garage door opener and blew the motor. That's when you give the child away for adoption. I fortunately cannot remember my kids breaking anything hugely expensive. There was one moment when I was in the Navy, still in my uniform, and had my son, who was maybe 3 or 4, with me at the commissary. He was still small enough to sit in the cart. Grocery store on base. I had this huge bottle of ketchup that he was hanging onto, and I had stopped to talk to a friend. We were in the middle of the produce department, and son held the bottle over the edge of the cart and dropped it straight down. I had not known that plastic would shatter like that. Ketchup went everywhere. It was like a crime scene. My mom has a similar story about my brother in his case. It was a cantaloupe and he declared bull before tossing it. My 4-year-old threw a rock at my TV last night. 50 inches smart TV that we got 2 months ago. Kicker, I gave him the rock. It was a tiger eye, because I thought he would like to put it in with all the treasures he collects when we go for walks. When my little brother was about 3, he really loved peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. He was very particular about the PB to J ratio and would insist on a mostly jelly with a hint of peanut butter sandwich. My dad has always worked with computers and loved PC gaming for as long as I can remember. He'd build his own PC and upgrade it every couple of months with the newest high-end parts. One day my little bro decides the computer looked hungry. When no one was looking, he ran off with his jelly sandwich and opened the CD tray and jammed the sandwich in it. When the computer didn't eat all of it, he took what was left and started stuffing it into any crevice or port he could find. My dad was pissed, as much as he could be at a 3-year-old. He didn't bother trying to salvage much. He said when he opened it up it was a disaster. It worked out for him as an excuse to buy the newest machine without my mom arguing about it. I'm not sure how much it cost at the time, but it couldn't have been cheap. That's when you gotta throw away the whole child at that point. When we were little, we had one of those Brady Bunch microwaves that was built into the wall. I tried to hard boil an egg in a cup of water, not even to eat, just to pretend it was a baby, and it cracked the plastic ceiling of the microwave, so we just had this enormous microwave panel that was useless. Not to mention we were poor and couldn't buy another one. I also threw a rock through a picture window in an attempt to make a thunk on the roof. But you aren't supposed to microwave babies. I don't have kids, but my little brother used to go full Hulk when he lost at a video game when he was a kid. Smashed my Game Boy Color. Broke several PS2 and PS3 controllers, a Gamma Cube, a Dreamcast, and at least 2 mobile phones. One literally because of a game of Snake. One time, he threw a Wii remote and smashed my dad's wizard statue. We all hated it anyway, TBH. He also shoved a PC monitor off a desk and stormed off, but it survived. He's also snapped game CDs just because he was mad, or run over them with his desk chair after throwing them on the floor. This lasted until his mid-teens. He went through about 5 keyboards and bust holes in his walls playing Dark Souls. Thankfully he grew out of this by the time tablet gaming became a thing. Screens just didn't survive him. He's 20 now, just got his own place. Broke a TV moving in, and complained that all of his girlfriend's Xbox 360 controllers were broken, damaged in some way. Actually heard him say you really need to take better care of things. Bro, if my ex-husband had any brothers I'd swear you were describing him. Once he threw a CRT TV across the room and took out a good chunk of the wall because my oldest daughter beat him in Mario Party. My then 8-year-old daughter came running into the bathroom one morning hysterically apologizing. "I'm sorry mommy, I'm sorry, it's okay honey. What's wrong? There's glass everywhere. I didn't mean to now. We've got a tile floor in the kitchen and she liked to make herself breakfast in the morning, figured she dropped a glass and it shattered. No worries baby, we'll just clean it up and it'll be okay. Did you step on any? Are you okay? Q hyperventilating. Start walking downstairs and I realize I'm hearing an odd crackling sound. Through bleary morning eyes I see the oversized sliding glass door looks a little funny on one side, figured the sprinkler must have been aimed at it. More crackling. Another look past the hyperventilating child to the glass door, which I now realize is shattered and is actively splintering. How maniacal laughter. Just how well we were trying to launch Yoda, Lego figurine, to the Safe Planet sofa from the Slingshot, but went the wrong way. The Slingshot has been bought the previous day and was an outside only item. Lego Yoda hit the glass door 2 inches below the door frame and 4 inches in from the side, taking off at a 90-degree angle from where they were aiming. $957 and 2 weeks later, the door was fixed. Sadly, this was just one of their many oopsies. I think I would just start laughing like crazy. I broke one of my dad's Matthew Monster bow. I put my feet on the handle and pulled the string back and held it, then was gonna guide it back but the string exploded, so I hit it. Oof, as an archer, I felt that. My son has destroyed 3 tablets. The first 2, he was a toddler and my dad and him were roughhousing and they got messed up. Oh well. The third one, however, he looked at the box and thought it was for babies. He was 6 and took it outside before I could finish setting his sisters up and smashed it to pieces. He does not have a tablet now and will not until he buys one himself. I told him then and I tell him now. He played himself. Good for you. So many kids here breaking crap and getting it replaced over and over again. Not sure if it counts, but I lost a friend's boomerang in a park across the road when I was a kid. They had just come back from a family trip to Australia and it was a souvenir. My logic was that it had to come back, so let's just go throw it around. Except I lobbed this thing and it just took an immediate left into some brambles and it was never seen again. It's just a stick if it doesn't come back, bro. When I was a teen, I broke my mom's favorite cup. I remember it had roses on it and she loved it and used it every day. When I told her I broke it, I thought she'd be mad or sad. I felt terrible. We didn't have a lot of money and she rarely bought herself nice things. She looked at it and then looked at me. It's just a cup. You're my precious girl. That was 20 years ago and I still feel grateful that she never put stuff ahead of people. I broke the coffee mug my mom used every day. It wasn't special or anything, just that it was fairly large and was comfortable to hold. I felt so bad about it even though she said it wasn't a big deal. I got her a new one that was similar in size and shape, but it had a mother-daughter theme. It became her new daily mug and she's used it now for over 10 years. I mean, clearly not my kids, but when I was a kid being forced to attend my brother's baseball games, my mom made me let one of the other kids there borrow my Game Boy and Pokemon Silver game for an hour, and she promptly saved over my 4-year-long game as soon as the game gave the option and then gave it back. Maybe not valuable in money, but that was 4 years of my time meticulously grinding Pokemon levels, which was pretty valuable to me. When I was a little kid, about 4 or 5, my parents had their house painted a pale blue. I found a red pencil somewhere and doodled a 3-foot high border around the whole thing. I wrote my name, the dog's name, drew pictures, the whole 9 yards. Not my kid, but my cat on this one. I was sound asleep in bed one night, and being sick and lazy, had left an extra can of soda on the other pillow. I was awakened by the unmistakable sound of a soda being opened. I was startled, but managed to grab it and get the spraying can into the sink. Happy because it was still at least half full. Looking more closely, I realized the dumb cat had bitten into the can. All's well, right? No. The next day I realized that the soda sprayed upward, directly into the ceiling fan. The entire top third of the room had a fine sheen of soda on it. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.